The right solutions and ideas often strike when you're having fun while you're working, but when you come here, your work is not just being serious. You celebrate your life and get to work.
Maker Village, making India innovative.
So what I'll do is that I'll go through a presentation. So I'll explain more about Maker Village. So how many of you have heard about Maker Village before this video was shown? Oh, that's good. Usually it used to be 0. So what I'll do is that, and how many of you are working on hardware right now? Is there any startups working in hardware? Yes. Okay. So I'll go through the Maker Village project, and I'll also explain some of the measures which the Kerala government is doing regarding incubation and helping startups in both electronics and software space. So I'll just start my presentation right now. Basically, these are the 4 partners for this project. So there is the Department of Electronics and Information Technology from the Government of India. Then IITMK is a nodal agency. We are also supported by Kerala Startup Mission and the Government of Kerala. Yeah, this is self-explanatory. Yeah, so basically, India is one of the largest growing markets for electronics hardware. So what is happening is that we are importing most of the products from China, Europe, and US, and that is actually hurting our deficit. So it is expected that the demand will reach around $400 billion by 2020. So the government of India has started something called the National Policy for Electronics, which aims to mitigate such issues. So setting up of electronic incubators is part of that initiative. There are also other initiatives where the government is trying to promote manufacturing in electronics. So if you see, it's just 2% of the global hardware production, whereas China has more than 1/3 of the total hardware production in the whole world. Yeah, so what would eventually happen is that if something is not done very soon, we'll lose around $1,200 billion to foreign exchange, because we don't produce much of anything in India right now. So I'll just show you what is the trend happening in hardware currently. Yeah, so all these factors actually help you build hardware startups, and it is very interesting at this stage, because there were never things like crowdfunding and pre-sales which were available for early companies. Components have become cheaper. There are better prototyping tools like 3D printers. There are even equipments which can print PCB circuits also. There are a lot of companies who are able to do small batch manufacturing. So in the earlier eras, what used to happen was that there were no small prototyping shops or companies which would enable startups to do a small batch. Right now, all that is possible due to the latest development in this area. So these were some of the earlier companies, startups which had started at least 10 years before, and most of them have reached a huge scale. So at least 2 or 3 of them are now billion-dollar companies. Also, a lot of mergers and acquisition is happening in the hardware arena if it is truly innovative. So these are some of the acquisitions which have happened recently. So if you see, a unicorn is a company which has a valuation of at least $1 billion, which would be around 6,500 crores. So if you see this list, you don't find a single Indian company till now. So that is the scope we have. And again, 18 hardware unicorns, 2/3 are from China. So there is nothing that is very specific that makes China competent in this. Probably the only advantage that China has is they have a huge manufacturing base. But the value addition, if you see, there are other companies which is not based in China, like the Western companies which you see there. So they also have reached this stage where what they essentially do is that they do the product development and engineering in the US or Europe, and only the mass manufacturing is transferred to China. So there is a huge misconception that it is difficult to compete with China because they have manufacturing. Through manufacturing, the value addition in the product is probably 3 to 4% of the total value of the product. So even if you build a product here, engineer it, design it, test it, and brand it and market it, and even if you just outsource the manufacturing to China, still you will make around 90% of the profits here itself. So manufacturing is just a small part of that. Yeah, so this is the usual time period for a hardware company to start from R&D, prototype production to IPO. So there are a lot of things which have happened in the recent years which will actually help us reduce this time from 8 years to 4 years. Yeah, so the only thing in which we are doing good is right now in having great summits. So if you see, the Applied Singularity Summit was the largest one which happened. So people are getting aware of the opportunities here, but realization is still very less. What actually happened in the early 2000s, which led to a lot of new companies emerging in the hardware space, is the maker movement. So if you see, initially maybe 15-20 years before, you could only see companies like Sony or Panasonic, only large corporations coming up with electronic products. You never really saw small companies like GoPro or the DJI drone company coming out with successful products, because there were a lot of difficulty in making such a product. So all that's changed with the maker movement. So what happened is that maker movement happened when a new kind of prototyping boards like Arduino and Raspberry was very popular. So after that, people started prototyping and making their ideas into a workable model. So this was something like a basic, it can be called like Linux, like a foundation in programming, which actually helped people to realize their ideas. So this was again supported by crowdfunding platforms where the startups could raise advance money through pre-orders. So for an example is that Oculus Rift, which makes the popular VR headset, started from a small project, raised funding in Kickstarter, developed the product, and was acquired for $2.5 billion by Facebook. Yeah, so we are having 3 areas. So do-it-yourself center is for everyone. You need not be a company. If you are interested in trying out something, you can always come to this center, this area. The electronics lab is for proper serious development work. And the third is the fabrication lab. So that is not focused on electronics. It could be both plastic processing and metal machining. So these are the partners for this project. So IITMK is a nodal agency, and Kerala Startup Mission is the state government partner for this. So I'll just pause this slide and I'll just explain some of the schemes which Startup Mission is doing. So Startup Mission currently supports all kind of startups. As far as incubation is concerned, there are 3 incubation centers now. So there is one in Kochi, there is one in Trivandrum, and there is a small center in Kozhikode right now. It also runs an accelerator in Trivandrum with Ernst & Young, and also there is a program at IIM Kozhikode. As far as funding is concerned, they have started something known as the Idea Day. So if you have a very interesting idea, you can always apply in the Idea Day. And if you are an innovator, the grant is around 2 lakhs. If you want to build a prototype, the grant is up to 5 lakhs. And for scaling, it is another 5 lakhs. So you could actually get a total of around 12 lakhs, which is a grant. Apart from that, Startups Incubator has an opportunity for a small seed funding loans that could be in the range of up to 25 lakhs. Another latest initiative that is being done is that Startup Mission has started a VC fund with Unicorn Ventures, where the ticket size could be around 50 lakhs to 1 crore, where the government participates in the ratio of 1:1. So that is also being done right now. Apart from that, now Startup Mission is also inviting international accelerators to take part in the state. So there was a news yesterday about that. So any international accelerator who wants to come to Kerala, the state government has provided a scheme that will actually enable them to start faster. So we are expecting at least 2 or 3 partners to come on board. So I've been working with 1 or 2 accelerators in China and Hong Kong for Maker Village. So that the talks are in progress. If you come with an idea, it's the pre-incubation stage. Once you are selected, it's called the incubation stage. So once the product is built, for scaling up and for things like certification, we give a fund of up to 40 lakhs per startup. So the total number is around 10 in a year. If there are any startups interested in hardware, you could always apply for incubation at www.makervillage.in. So we have partnered with Mentor Graphics, which is a Siemens company, where they would provide us the whole electronic design suite for free. So any startup incubated at Maker Village will be able to access this tool for free for the incubation period. So usually a tool like this would cost you around, the license cost per startup would be around, to a commercial license cost of such a tool would be around 10 crores. So that is provided free of cost for any startup incubator. So we have got 100 licenses like this. So we are also providing another set of software for simulation and embedded design. Right now we are talking with Dassault Systems. So they provide the very popular mechanical design software suite called SolidWorks and CATIA. So we are trying to get them also on board. So essentially that would mean that you will also get the full mechanical design suits also for free. So we have the PCB assembly line which you saw on the video. So this is the only place where startups can get access to such a sophisticated equipment. Yeah, so I'll just briefly explain. This is different from normal 3D printers. So we are setting up this in a span of around 2 to 3 months. So normal 3D printers have a very low resolution, so you cannot replicate parts with it. So with this facility, you would be able to actually make a market-ready product and use a very special casting process where you can make at least 100 production runs. We are also setting up a machining center. So these are some of the kits which are available there for people to start with. So these are the partners right now on board. So I'll just run through some of the companies which are showing some promise. So first is Ariff. So they are basically graduates from College of Engineering Trivandrum, and they are postgraduate from IIT Delhi and Chennai. So they are making an underwater drone, which is used for non-destructive testing for marine vehicles. So they are getting a lot of support from the government, and a lot of agencies are interested. So they've got selection into an international accelerator called Brink. So this company, what it essentially does is, it scans your body size measurements, and there's a laser which converts the measurement into a cutting pattern, and it cuts the clothes and stitches that. So so what it does is that it essentially reduces the time to around 2 hours. So 2 hours you will get a fully stitched cloth. So right now they are piloting with airline companies for the uniform. SMO Robotics has made a full-size service robot. So they make use of a lot of facilities which are available at Maker Village. So Sahla Robotics makes machines for the industry. So it's basically a testing machine. So it's a touchscreen testing machine. So they initially made a product called Made Oven which didn't take off. So they've changed to a new product which is an automatic roti maker. They almost finished the prototype. So they are making an interactive board game. This is more of a system which is focused on industrial IoT. Yeah, so it is not Iron Man. It is basically what it does is that this is not an electronic system. It's a pneumatic system. So what it does is that if you wear this exoskeleton, it will help you to lift weights of around up to 200 kilograms. So he has been selected to an accelerator in Taiwan called iFoundry. I think they are giving around 1 crore of funding support. So this is a women's safety garment. So if there is any attach which is not appropriate, so once this is worn by a woman and activated, if somebody touches this, they'll get an electric shock. Yeah. So this is a skateboard tracker. So I think it was a little bit technical because hardware is mostly technical stuff because that is how you can do hardware development. So if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer.